time. We live by it, we race against it, and we're always trying to manage it. But have you ever really stopped to think about how we actually measure it? I mean, humanity's journey to get a handle on time is this incredible story. It's a quest for more and more precision that took us from just watching shadows creep across the ground to splitting seconds into billions. Seriously. So let's dive into this amazing history. Okay, so it all kicks off with a simple observation, right? Let's take this young girl, Prerna. She's watching the Olympic sprinters, and she's just amazed, you know? The winners are decided by these tiny, tiny fractions of a second. The timing tech is just, wow, so advanced. But then, at her own school sports day, the teacher's just using a basic old stopwatch. And that huge gap, I mean, between our everyday timekeeping and that super elite precision, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? And yeah, that's the big question we're going to dig into today. How on earth did we make that massive leap from just rough estimates to, absolutely mind-boggling accuracy? How do we get so good at measuring time? Well, to answer that, we have to go back, way back. Forget about digital watches and smartphones for a minute. Our ancestors, they looked at the world around them, and they noticed something pretty cool. Nature has its own clocks. These repeating cycles, like the sun rising and setting, the phases of the moon, the changing seasons. That was their first guide. So one of the first and maybe most intuitive inventions was the sundial. And the idea behind it is just beautifully simple. As the sun moves across the sky, right, the shadow from an object moves right along with it. All you had to do was mark where the shadow falls, and boom, you could track the hours of the day. So simple, but absolutely genius. But of course, sundials have a pretty big flaw, right? What happens when the sun goes down? Or, it's just a cloudy day. Well, to solve that, our ancestors got clever and turned to another element, water. Water clocks, which are also called clepsydras, worked by using the steady, predictable flow of water from one container to another. You just mark the water level as it rose or fell, and you could measure time, day or night. Problem solved. And following that same kind of logic, we get the hourglass. It's a similar idea, but it uses fine sand instead of water. The sand just flows from the top bulb to the bottom one at a really consistent rate. Now, this wasn't for telling you it's 3 p.m., but it was perfect for measuring a specific chunk of time, like an hour. Oh, and here's another really ingenious one, the candle clock. Seriously, people would just mark a candle with lines, and as it burned down from one mark to the next, you knew exactly how much time had passed. It's just a perfect example of using everyday stuff to solve a really complex problem. Now, don't go thinking these ancient methods were all rough and crude. No way. They reached incredible levels of sophistication. Just look at the Samrat Yantra in Jaipur, India. This thing is not some little garden sundial. It is a massive 27-meter-tall stone structure, and its precision is just staggering. Get this. Its shadow moves at a rate of 1 millimeter per second. That is ancient engineering at its absolute finest. So, for centuries, these natural clocks were the best we had. But humanity's quest for precision, well, it needed something more reliable, something more mechanical. And the next great leap forward? It came from observing a really simple rhythmic motion, the swing of a pendulum. So the story goes, picture this. It's the 17th century, and the famous scientist Galileo Galilei is just sitting in a church. He's not just daydreaming, though. He's totally mesmerized by a lamp swinging from the ceiling, and he notices something profound. He starts using his own pulse to time it, and he realizes that every single swing, whether it's a big one or a little one, takes the exact same amount of time. And that was the key. That was the aha moment. This steady, repeating back-and-forth movement, that's what scientists call oscillatory motion. A pendulum, when you let it go, doesn't just swing all over the place. Nope. It follows a predictable, periodic path over and over and over again. Okay, so this brings us to a really important idea. The time it takes for that pendulum to complete one full swing, from one side to the other and all the way back again, that's called its time period. And Galileo's big insight wasn't just that the swing was rhythmic. It was that this time period was incredibly consistent. But why? What's the secret sauce? What is it about a pendulum swing that's so special, so reliable, that it could literally become the heartbeat of our clocks for hundreds of years?
Okay, so here's the crucial part. After a bunch more experiments, scientists figured out something amazing. The time period of a pendulum swing, it doesn't matter how heavy the weight at the end is, it doesn't matter how wide the swing is, it depends on only one thing, the length of the string. That's it. A pendulum with a specific length will always have the same time period. And this was revolutionary, because for the first time ever, we had a timekeeper that wasn't dependent on unreliable things like the sun or water flow or a burning candle.
The pendulum was an absolute game changer, no doubt about it. But even these new mechanical clocks had their limits. You know, things like friction, changes in temperature, tiny little imperfections. They meant the clocks weren't perfect. So the quest for precision had to keep going. It demanded we go smaller, faster, and more stable, taking us out of the mechanical world and into the wild realm of crystals and atoms. But hold on, before we jump ahead to atoms, we've got to close the loop on the pendulum story. A Dutch scientist, Christian Huygens, he's the guy who officially turned Galileo's observation into a world-changing device. In 1656, he invented the very first pendulum clock, using that super reliable swing to regulate the clock's gears. This was it. This was the pinnacle of mechanical timekeeping, and it set the stage for everything that came next. And this is where the leap in accuracy just becomes truly mind-bending. So Huygens' first clocks, totally revolutionary, but they might still lose about 10 seconds a day. Okay, now compare that to a modern atomic clock. Instead of a swinging pendulum, these incredible machines use the super fast, unbelievably consistent vibration of an atom as their tick-tock. And they are so precise, they would lose only 1 second in millions of years. That's a level of accuracy that's, well, it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around. Okay, so we've gotten insanely good at measuring time. But you might be asking, so what? Why does this even matter? What's the big payoff? Well, it turns out that mastering time is the key to understanding something we deal with every day, motion itself.
Let's go back to those Olympic sprinters. To figure out who's faster, you can't just look at the distance, right? They all run 100 meters. The only way to know is to measure the time it takes them to cover that distance. Our ability to precisely measure those tiny, tiny fractions of a second is what allows us to define and calculate something we use constantly, speed.
And the relationship is actually beautifully simple. Speed is just the total distance an object covers divided by the total time it takes to do it. It's a basic formula, but think about it. You absolutely cannot get an accurate measure of speed without an accurate measure of time. The two are fundamentally linked. And just to make sure scientists all over the world are speaking the same language, we use a standard set of units. The SI unit for distance is the meter, and for time, it's the second. So naturally, the standard unit for speed becomes meters per second. See? It all comes back to being able to precisely measure that fundamental unit of time, the second. So let's just take a second to recap this incredible journey. We started way back in ancient times, literally reading the rhythms of nature with things like sundials and water clocks. Then, bam, the mechanical revolution hits in 1656 with the pendulum clock. And today we're in the atomic age, measuring time with a precision our ancestors couldn't have even dreamed of. It's just been this relentless march towards smaller and smaller, more precise bits of time. We've gone from tracking a sun shadow to tracking the vibration of a single atom just to measure our world. And that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's next? What will the next great leap in measuring time even look like?